Greetings and salutations, viewers. Welcome to ConnectiCon 2018. I am Charles from Inspire the Muse, coming to you today with another interview. This time we are talking to Brian Lee Durfee. Thank you for taking some time out to talk to us.
No problem.
We were hoping to learn about your recent book and just a little bit of what it's all about.
Okay. Well, this is The Forgetting Moon, published by... Probably better if I talk in the microphone, right? This is The Forgetting Moon, published by Simon & Schuster Saga Press. It came out in the end of 2016. It's been doing well. It's in all the Barnes & Nobles in the country. It's doing really well in Germany and England also. Book 2, I will show you the cover right there. That's coming out December 4th of this year. And then Book 3, I'm in the middle of writing, and that should be coming out a year and a half from now.
Very cool. Could you give us a bit of a teaser in regards to the plot?
Well, sure. I'm going to read right from the back of the bookmark. Barnes & Noble, they called it a hard-hitting heavy metal fantasy. Locust Magazine said The Forgetting Moon provides plenty of well-crafted spectacle, thrills, suspense, blood, thunder, and general sense of wonder. And Science Fiction World called it an epic fantasy. So if you like the big fantasies by like Pat Rothfuss or Robert Jordan or George R.R. Martin or Tad Williams, that's kind of what I was aiming for when I wrote it. It was a big, fat, world-building, multiple-character fantasy. It's a book. The Forgetting Moon is book 1 of the 5 warrior angels, and the warrior angels are these mythical religious figures from thousands of years past, and the characters that are involved in the book are presently trying to figure out if the warrior angels were actually real or just myth, and the weapons that they used, were those weapons real or just myth? Because there's a big religious war taking place in the land of the 5 Isles, and whoever can figure out these myths and if these weapons work and if they're real, could possibly turn the tide of the war, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So that's the basis of the plot. And you know, it's got knights and assassins and gladiators and thieves and, you know, peasant farm boys and all of these characters and slaves and bishops and kings and princesses. All of them are kind of vying to find out, who are the warrior angels? Are they going to return? Are they going to return with their weapons? Or do we have to find the weapons to help them return? And who's going to get them all together to turn the tide of the religious war? Or is it all just make-believe? Or all, because they all believe in these scriptures, and there's like 5 different types of scriptures that different religions believe in. But they all seem to tie around the 5 warrior angels. But the mystery is, are these legends real, or will they all just kind of BS? And that'll be answered over the course of 5 books.
A lot of mythology is generally based on truth, so I can only guess as to where this story is going.
Yeah, I want to leave it to mystery till the very end, what's really going on, because, you know, even in our own world, we've got all these different religions sort of like, we're the truth, we're the truth, we're the truth. But who really is the truth? Or is none of it the truth? Is it all just make-believe? And that's kind of the basis for the conflict of my story.
Very nice.
And another thing is, all religions sort of, in my books, the characters believe in magic, but they've never really seen it, but they're devoutly devoted to it, to the idea that it exists. And so as the story sort of unfolds, some characters start to see things that may be supernatural, that may be magical, but in reality, when they think about it, they're like, well, maybe it was just coincidence, or maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. So it's a big tease through the whole series of what's really going to happen in the end.
There's a lot of dancing back and forth between the lines of, is this real, is this not?
Yes, exactly.
Very cool. What was your creative process like, bringing this giant world into being?
Well, the creative process really started when I was a young 12-year-old boy and I read The Sword of Shannara for the first time.
A classic.
And I just wanted to write a fantasy book ever since then, you know. And I read 3-4 books a week ever since I was a kid. And in the back of my mind, I always wanted to be a writer, and I always kind of kept notes for the big fantasy book I would write someday, through my teenage years, through my college years. I just had this notebook of ideas. And then it wasn't until I was about 32 years old where I was, I don't know if you guys know who John Stockton is, the point guard for the Utah Jazz back in the day. He's an all-star, all-pro. Well, I was a carpet cleaner in Salt Lake City, and I was cleaning carpets, and one of the clients that we cleaned regularly for was John Stockton. And I was in his house one day cleaning in his den, and he was sitting at his desk, and he had this bookshelf full of books. And they were all books that I had read and loved, and I said, hey, I've read all these. And he's like, yeah, I've read them too. And I had a conversation with him about books, and as I was cleaning his rugs, right? And I just made the offhand comment. I was about 32 years old at this time, and I made the offhand comment, I kind of always wanted to write books when and he said, well, why haven't you? And I was like, the rest of the day, I just couldn't stop thinking about, why? He's right, why haven't I done it? And so that night when I got home, I wrote the first sentence of the first book, and I just kept going. And 5-6 years later, I had 2 books. I had a big horror novel, and I had this big fantasy novel written, all because he said, hey, why haven't you done it, right? And I was thinking, if John Stockton can, he was just a 6'2", white guy in the NBA, with 7 foot playing against 7 foot guys, and he was an all-star. I was like, if he can do that, well, I could write a book, right? And so that's kind of what inspired me to begin with. And I don't know if that was even the question you asked.
It was. That's a really cool story.
So that's how I really started doing it. It was just kind of like, this guy kind of inspired me with just a few words.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
To do it,
What has it been like since then, finding out more surprises, presumably, about your story or your characters as they go through your world?
So even as a teenager, some of the ideas that I had as a teenager are in this book. Because I kept those notes. I kept those notes, and I always added to them, always with the idea that one day I'd eventually write the book. So some of the character names and ideas and storylines and plots are interwoven throughout this series, stuff that I came up with when I was a teenager. So the things that have surprised me are that some of those plot lines that I came up with as a teenager were actually pretty good. Some of them were garbage, and I got rid of them. And some of the new stuff that's come in has enhanced the writing experience. And some of the more minor characters that I didn't think would be major characters have sort of become major characters just because their personalities were so big, and they just sort of in the fore. As you write, there's just certain characters that decide that
they demand attention.
They demand attention, and that's really surprising, and kind of one of the pleasures of writing, and one of the surprising pleasures of writing is to get to know the characters and have some of them surprise you in ways you weren't expecting.
It's always great when the characters effectively come to life on their own and kind of shoehorn their way into your stories, whether you expect it or not.
That's exactly what happened, and that's kind of a cool thing.
And it really does tend to show through in the writing and the storyline that they're that alive.
Yeah.
For ideas to have spanned or survived since your teenage years, and they still hold true now, that's always very encouraging to hear.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but think about it. I had dreams as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old boy to be a writer, and it wasn't until I was about 32 years old where I really got serious about it. So that means, you're never too young to start, So I spent 5, 6, 7, 8 years writing these books, and then another 5, 7 years trying to find an agent to get published, and then it's another couple years after that you get a book deal. So it's a long process, and so I got started late in life, which means people that are getting started early in life are ahead of the game But even if you want to get started in your mid-40s, your mid-50s, your mid-60s, it doesn't matter how old you are. As long as you work hard and keep the dream, it can happen.
If you have a story to share and
if you
feel it needs to be shared, it doesn't matter what age you're
Yeah.
at or where you are on the professional skill level necessarily.
Exactly.
You start.
I have zero education. I've got a college degree, but it's not in writing and it's not in English. I have zero training in writing, to be honest. Any talent that I may have was gleaned from reading 2, 3, 4 books a week ever since I was 12 years old. If you read a lot, you're just going to learn how to write well.
Yep. Learn by experience.
Yes.
For our viewers out there, where can they learn more about you and your works?
Well, my website's www.brianleedurfee.com. Of course, I've got links to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can find me on all of those just under Brian Lee Durfee. You can find me in every Barnes & Noble in the country, on Amazon. Audible will have my books, the Audible versions around December.
Very cool.
Those are all the places, right?
All the.
If you live in Germany, it's selling really well in Germany. In fact, it's probably selling better in Germany than in America right now. And then in the UK also, and Australia.
For Germany, is it the English version or translated?
It's a German translated version.
Very
The
cool.
publisher is Klett Cotta. They publish Tolkien, Pat Rothfuss, Tad Williams, me, Anthony Ryan. They publish a lot of good fantasy writers.
Very cool.
And they really promote heavily in Germany. So they're really a good publisher over there.
Very cool.
And it's not to say that Simon Schuster in America isn't good, because they've done a lot for me too.
But it sounds like you have pretty strong support internationally and locally.
Yes.
Well, I highly encourage our viewers out there to go check this book out, check the series out, and if you purchase it, as always, go post a review online, on Amazon, on Goodreads, all those good places, so it can raise the visibility and help others enjoy it. And until next time, viewers, as always, go be creative. Go read some books.